Who are the most notorious gangsters in the history of the American Mafia? To answer that, we had to delve into the figures who left the greatest impact on organized crime in the United States. These bosses ruled the underworld of the country's largest cities, New York, Chicago, Las Vegas, and Miami, among the most prominent. Let's take a journey into the history of organized crime. Here we present the list of the 10 most infamous gangsters of all time. How many of these names do you recognize? Be sure to leave your comment at the end. Number 10, Vincent the Chin Gigante, born in New York in 1928.
I was a notorious member of the Genovese crime family. Dropped out of school by the 9th grade to become a boxer, winning 21 out of 25 bouts.
At 17, he turned to crime to support himself and was arrested 7 times before the age of 25. One of his most famous acts was an assassination attempt on the powerful Frank Costello, though his bullet missed. Over time, he rose through the ranks of the Genovese family, eventually becoming a capo and consigliere in the early 1980s. Number 9, Joseph Bonanno, born in Sicily in 1905.
At just 26, I became the boss of one of the 5 families that controlled New York's underworld in the 1930s.
Alongside fellow mobsters like Lucky Luciano and Vito Genovese, Bonanno helped shape an organization that had profound impacts on the American economy. He was one of the original members of the Commission, a mafia governing body designed to settle internal disputes. Bonanno passed away at the age of 97, leaving behind a vast fortune for his family. Number 8, Benjamin Bugsy Siegel, born in Brooklyn in 1906.
I was both charming and ruthless. Co-founded and led Murder Inc., a gang of Italian and Jewish hitmen paid by the Mafia.
He was also a major bootlegger during Prohibition. In the late 1930s, Siegel moved to Los Angeles at the request of Luciano, where he managed mafia interests in Hollywood, living a life of glamour among film stars. Known for his short temper and violence, Siegel played a crucial role in the development of Las Vegas as a gambling hub.
Born in Tropea, Italy, I became one of the most feared gangsters in the American Cosa Nostra. During Prohibition, I aligned with Lucky Luciano, controlling alcohol smuggling operations.
Nicknamed the Lord High Executioner, Albert Anastasia co-founded Murder Inc., a criminal group known for carrying out contract killings. By the 1950s, Anastasia had become the head of the Gambino family.
Born in Russia in 1902, I immigrated to New York at the age of 9, where I met future Mafia boss Charles Luciano. Our friendship evolved into one of the most formidable criminal partnerships in American history.
Meyer Lansky, a financial genius, became involved in gambling operations in Florida, Cuba, and New Orleans. He was an investor in Siegel's Flamingo Casino in Las Vegas and even bought a Swiss bank to launder mafia money. He co-founded the National Crime Syndicate with Luciano. John Gotti, born in Brooklyn in 1940, quickly made a name for himself as a streetwise gangster. At 16, he joined a local gang, later leading it in stealing cars and smuggling goods. By the 1970s, he had become a capo in the Gambino family. Ambitious and fearless, Gotti started trafficking drugs, which led to conflict with then-boss Paul Castellano. In 1985, Gotti orchestrated Castellano's murder outside a restaurant, taking over the Gambino family and becoming one of the most famous mob bosses in history. Frank Costello, born Francesco Castiglia in Italy in 1891, immigrated to the United States at the age of 4. By the time he was 13, he had already joined a gang. After several arrests, he formed a close bond with Charles Luciano. Together, they became deeply involved in bootlegging and gambling operations. Costello's real strength, however, was his political connections. He was able to buy off politicians and police officers, earning him the title Prime Minister of the Underworld. ###3, Carlo Gambino, born in 1902 and passing in 1976. Born in Palermo, Italy, Carlo Gambino came from a long line of mafiosi. After committing murders as a teenager, Gambino fled to the U.S. to escape Mussolini's rise to power. In New York, he worked with several mafia families, eventually taking control of the Gambino family in 1957 after the assassination of Albert Anastasia. Gambino ruled New York's underworld with an iron fist until his death in 1976. ###2. Charles Lucky Luciano, born in 1897 and passing in 1962. Salvatore Lucania, better known as Lucky Luciano, was born in Sicily in 1897 and moved to New York at the age of 9. A member of the infamous Five Points gang, Luciano eventually built an empire based on extortion, gambling, and prostitution. He survived an assassination attempt in 1929, which led him to create the National Crime Syndicate along with Meyer Lansky. By 1935, Luciano was widely recognized as the boss of bosses of the American Mafia. #1. Al Capone, born in 1899 and passing in 1947. Topping the list is none other than Al Capone. Born in Brooklyn in 1899, Capone started out in street gangs before joining the notorious 5 Points gang. His physical stature and willingness to commit violence quickly earned him a position as a bouncer. In 1919, he moved to Chicago to work for Johnny Torrio and soon rose to the top of the Chicago outfit. During Prohibition, Capone controlled gambling, prostitution, and illegal alcohol production. His most infamous act was the 1929 St. Valentine's Day Massacre, where rival gang members were brutally murdered. In 1931, he was convicted of tax evasion and sentenced to prison, where he spent the remainder of his days. What did you think of this list? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to share this article on your social media. See you next time.